Kia ora, here we are learning how to write an introduction now. So you should only be here if you have written a very thorough plan and you are ready to actually write your introduction. No point watching these if you're not actually ready to do the writing part yet. Rightio. I'm skipping step 4 because I feel like that's for those of you who are very confident in your essay writing, and I will include that in the advanced series of tutorials. You don't need step 4. You don't even need step 4 to write an excellence level essay. It's just something that adds a little bit of pizzazz to your writing. I've included it in the example essay that you can see, but you can just pretend like it's not there. And we're not going to talk about it too much in this tutorial because, as I say, it's not absolutely necessary, and you can easily add it in once you've written your first draft. So if you write your first draft and I think you're doing really well and you're really confident, then I'll say, hey, why don't you go and watch the opening quote tutorial and add one in. But for the rest of you, for most of you, at this stage, I just want you to focus on writing a very straightforward essay that you can go back in and improve later on. So here is the whole essay. As you can see, where it says Helen Keller once articulated, I would rather walk with a friend, that's what I mean by the opening quote. We are going to start with Fleur Beale's Juno of Taris weaves, etc., etc. So here is our more brief introduction without the opening quote. Pause that now and read it, or you could listen to me read it because there are some new words in there that you might not know and you might not know how to pronounce them inside your brain. Right. Fleur Beale's Juno of Taris weaves the cautionary tale of a community of people who, bent on creating an ideal world, allow their youth to be lied to in the name of peace. When strong-willed Vima and Juno forge an unlikely friendship, we come to learn how loyal, accepting and trusting they both are. With Juno and Vima working side by side, there is still hope for Taris. So remember, our question is about a key relationship and how that relationship helped you to understand Juno and Vima, and that's all I talk about in the introduction. Don't need to talk about like the whole big backstory, don't need to know about Hilto and Maba, don't need to know about how it's in the Pacific Ocean. We just focus on the question and the answer. Really nice and tight. That's it broken down into the 3 kinds of sentences that we're going to write. We're going to write a context sentence, which means kind of a little bit of background, teeny tiny bit of background. My sentence is really long. Your sentence might be half that length and still do a really good job. Then you're going to write down your argument. What are you actually arguing in this essay? What point are you trying to prove? And then you're going to sum it up. So this particular tutorial is all about that context sentence. So I'm doing one tutorial for each sentence. So the context is like a little bit of information about the story. Not a whole lot. Don't go and write 2 to 3 sentences. I want you to challenge yourself to see if you can make a sentence shorter than mine that has just as much information. And you totally can do that because I go on and on and on and waffle, and I shouldn't. And that's a weakness in my writing. So here's why I've highlighted these little bits. Cautionary tale. Tell me what kind of story it is. You might read those words cautionary tale and think, what is she talking about? A cautionary tale is just like a story that is warning you about something. Kind of like a fable. So Juno of Taris is warning us about how not to run a society, about the bad effect of running a society like that. So you might refer to Juno of Taris as science fiction, utopian or dystopian, because remember it kind of looks utopian on the surface but it's dystopian underneath it all. You could call it futuristic, you could call it young adult fiction, you could call it, no, it's not fantasy. You could call it mysterious. It doesn't even have to be an actual genre. You might just give the feel of it. It's a mystery. It's a thriller. Yeah, that's a good range. So there will be people in the class who'll put the same thing, but that's fine. There's not an unlimited amount of ways to describe the story. If you can come up with something that I haven't mentioned in this tutorial, I'd be very impressed. And then the next little bit that I've highlighted, this is the backstory. They're a community of people who really want to create the perfect world, but they let their young people be lied to. And then the last little bit there, in the name of peace. That's me suggesting that actually the peace is not actually real. In the name of peace. When you say in the name of something, what it really means is that you are using it as an excuse. So they are saying, well, it's okay to lie to you guys because we have a peaceful society. But they don't have a peaceful society. It's all false. So that's just me adding a little bit more to my writing. Now, some of you might find this sentence really, really intimidating, and you might be thinking, I don't understand what it means. Let's just put it as simply as we can. I'm basically saying, Fleur Beale's Juno of Taris tells the story of a community of people who want to create a perfect world, but unfortunately lie to the children in their world. That's all I'm saying. Really nice and simple. It's just the basic story of what Juno of Taris is. You'll be really tempted to go into a lot more detail than that and talk about how Juno wants to grow her hair and then Vima falls in love with a married man and how their society is failing. But we just want a little bit of a clue, a little bit of a taste of what the story is all about, because it's not the most important part of our introduction and it's not the most important part of our essay. Fantastic. What I strongly recommend you do now is write your own context sentence. Don't look at mine. Maybe rewatch the video if you found any of it confusing, or rewatch parts of it, but don't have it on the screen while you write your own one. Write your own independently so that you don't get distracted by what I've written. If you're feeling really, really anxious about that, then what I recommend you do is copy my structure. Start off by saying Fleur Beale's Juno of Taris, and then instead of saying the word weaves, you might start off by saying like tells the story of, and then describe to you what is the story of Juno of Taris. But don't have my words in front of you, because that's when it gets really hard for you to be original and for you to find your own voice in your writing. So writing your own context sentence now before you look at the next tutorial about writing an argument sentence.